What's going on, guys? It's Fight Season MMA, and today I want to make a video talking about Islam Makhachev and his ability to become the greatest mixed martial artist on the planet. Islam Makhachev is still relatively young, and he has some time to keep growing inside the sport of the UFC. He already has 3 title defenses, 2 against Alexander Volkanovski and 1 against Dustin Poirier, and he's going to fight Arman Tsarukyan coming up here soon. But I do think he has the ability to become one of the greatest mixed martial artists this planet has ever seen, even above Jon Jones, and he still has the time to do so. So I want to kind of break down a plan on why I believe that Islam Makhachev has the ability to reach such a feat of surpassing Jon Jones as the greatest mixed martial artist on the planet, and possibly even the greatest lightweight on the planet, and one of the greatest fighters to ever do it inside the UFC. If you guys enjoy the UFC content, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. That is the best way to show support to the channel. Also, when you're down there, please turn on the post notifications just so you guys always show support and never miss out on a video when it posts. But let's jump into the video on why I believe Islam Makhachev has a chance to become the UFC's best fighter ever. Okay, so as we all know, Islam Makhachev just fought on June 1st at UFC 302 in Newark, New Jersey, in an amazing fight against Dustin Poirier, which I had him up 4 rounds to 0, which he ended up getting the Darce choke submission in the final round. But why do I feel so confident in Islam Makhachev possibly having the ability to go up there and challenge Jon Jones for one of the greatest fighters of all time? Now, I believe first off, Islam Makhachev has already cleaned out the lightweight division, and yes, that is definitely something Jon Jones has done. And I think that Islam Makhachev has fought all of these guys in that division to where he doesn't have a say or a cause to fight them again. That Charles Oliveira fight the first time, who Charles Oliveira was the champion for a couple times around. A lot of people consider Charles Oliveira to be one of the best fighters in the organization, and Islam submitted him within 2 rounds. Then Islam Makhachev fought Alexander Volkanovski, who is the pound-for-pound GOAT, beat him in a very close 5-round split decision, and beat him in the second fight by head kick TKO, which was an absolute crazy quick fight that happened. He just beat Dustin Poirier, who is a living legend in the UFC lightweight division. So he's kind of beat this division out cold. Now the only people left are Arman Tsarukyan and Max Holloway if he really wanted a shot at that lightweight title versus Islam Makhachev, where I think Islam would absolutely ragdoll Max Holloway. But that leaves the question, could Islam Makhachev compete at 170 pounds? And that would be an absolute no-brainer. The only person who I think that could realistically have a chance to beat Islam Makhachev would be Belal Muhammad, or Kamaru Usman, or Shavkat Rakhmonov. And then I think he beats Usman since Usman is past his prime. He would never fight Belal Muhammad because them two, they train at the same gym sometimes. And Shavkat Rakhmonov would be a very interesting fight, but I do ultimately think that Islam Makhachev would get the best out of Shavkat. That would then be a division where Islam Makhachev could run through. He could do the exact same thing that he did with lightweight. I don't see any other opponent up there. He would never fight Belal. He beats Usman. He beats Shavkat. He beats Leon. He beats Colby. He beats Ian Gary. He beats Michael Venom Page. He beats Kevin Holland. Beats Sean Brady. Beats Gilbert Burns. There is no one in the welterweight division, in my opinion, who stands up to fight Islam Makhachev on his level. But then that leads him. What can he do to put himself over the top, other than someone like Jon Jones? Because also, as we all know, Jon Jones moved up at UFC 285 to beat Ciryl Gane in one of the craziest performances we've ever seen. Not saying that we didn't think Jon Jones would win, but getting a submission over Ciryl Gane 2 minutes into the fight, which was something super impressive, even considering that Ciryl Gane isn't the greatest grappler. But what can Islam Makhachev do to separate himself from the competition to truly put himself in front as one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time? Now, the first thing that Islam Makhachev has to do is he has to go capture a 3rd belt, which I think he could actually possibly do. Now, in that middleweight division, that would easily be Islam's hardest test, not on a skill level, but rather just a size level. As we all know, Islam Makhachev is a massive lightweight, which is something that really aids him in all of his fights that he has. But when you move up to welterweight, he would still be a good size welterweight, but 100% at middleweight, he would be a smaller fighter. But I do think that his skills and his grappling ability are something that can 100% translate through weight classes. If Islam Makhachev fought someone like Israel Adesanya, there would be a very good chance that I could see Islam Makhachev winning that fight because of the ground game he possesses and a lot of other things like that. Now, there's some other harder competitions in that fight. As we all know, styles make fights. So someone like Dricus du Plessis, Robert Whittaker, Brendan Allen, someone like that would be a very hard matchup for Islam Makhachev because they're going to be a lot bigger than Islam's other opponents that he's ever had. But I do think that Islam could beat the majority of these guys on any night. I do think that Islam Makhachev could possibly beat Dricus du Plessis in a fight. He definitely shouldn't be favored, but I do think that Islam Makhachev's experience, his training in that Dagestani gym, I think a camp of him beefing up and him truly being able to have the opportunity to go up there and fight would be absolutely insane. We all know that Jared Cannonier is a middleweight. He's 5'11". Guess who else is 5'11"? Islam Makhachev. So we all know that it would be just fine for Islam to move up into that middleweight division. So I think Islam Makhachev has the ability to be a 3-division champion. But what else does Islam Makhachev have to do? Islam Makhachev has never, in my question, lost a fight, whereas Jon Jones lost that fight to Dominic Reyes, even though it is not on his record. Everyone knows that Jon Jones lost that fight to Reyes, whereas the only fight that you can consider Islam Makhachev losing was that fight to Alexander Volkanovski, which was very close, but I did have Islam Makhachev winning. I did have him outpointing that fight. Now, if we went by street fighting rules, Islam 100% lost that fight because he was on his back getting wailed on at the end of the 5th round. That would be the only time that you could really consider Islam Makhachev's only loss inside the UFC. Now, yes, I understand he got KO'd prior in his career, but everyone is going to have mistakes. It's like Jon Jones's loss against Matt Hamill, him not knowing the rules, and I understand the ref kind of told him to throw that 12-6 elbow, but that is still one of those things that is just, it's a blemish on the resume completely. Now, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Islam Makhachev's absolute just ruler, or I shouldn't say ruler, but mentor, was a person who had an undefeated record at 29-0, and the only reason that we can remember Khabib's record is because of that O in his resume, which is an absolute perfect record entirely, and he wanted to retire on top. And I think that's something that Islam Makhachev could do, which would also receive a lot of respect out of the MMA community. I think as soon as Islam Makhachev loses his step or feels like he cannot compete with these fighters, I think that he should ultimately retire on the spot. But what is my plan, or what would my plan to advise Islam Makhachev be to ultimately possibly be able to surpass Jon Jones? Because I truly think that Jon Jones's legacy is something so hard to really surpass because of how early he became champion and of how long his title reign was. Now, the only blemish of that, it was in one division, and it was really never shown of how his style translates through weight classes. Now, we could always talk about a Tom Aspinall fight. That would probably be the best fight to see if Jones' style translated through weight classes, but it isn't an accurate fight just because of Jon Jones being an older fighter right now in this standpoint. But I think Islam Makhachev should take 2 more fights at lightweight. A fight with Arman Tsarukyan in his next one, and possibly another fight with another contender, whether that's Max Holloway for a lightweight and BMF title fight, whether that's Charles Oliveira again, whether it's Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, whatever the fight is and whoever's the rightful challenger, I think that Islam Makhachev should take that fight. Secondly, I think Islam Makhachev should go challenge for the second belt. And I think what's going to happen is Belal is going to defend a couple times and end up moving up to middleweight for 2 reasons. One, I think Belal has a little bit of a hard time to cut to 185 or 170, so he'll move up to 185. And 2, he will never fight Islam, so he wants to give Islam a proper chance at that belt. Belal has already explained that he'll never fight Islam, and he's already explained that he's covering that seat and keeping it warm for when Islam moves up to 170. So I think that Islam Makhachev could move up to 170 pounds and dominate there for a couple times. He could 100% beat the rightful challenger in that division, whether it's Shavkat Rakhmonov, Jack Della Maddalena, Ian Gary, Leon Edwards, someone like that. Islam Makhachev could dominate and really keep a title reign consecutively in 2 divisions if he even wanted to. That is something Jon Jones has never done, and I don't think Jon Jones would ever have the ability to do that again, just considering his age. And lastly, cherry on top, Islam Makhachev fights once at middleweight, whoever is the rightful challenger there, to possibly capture the 3rd belt, leaving him as the only fighter in UFC history capturing that 3rd belt. The only other fighter who has a chance of doing that is Alex Pereira, and we all know that he could possibly be fighting Tom Aspinall very soon. I think that fight is very unlikely, but it is still in the realm of possibility for Alex Pereira to challenge for that 3rd belt. It would either be Islam Makhachev as the only 3 belt holder, or him up there with Alex Pereira on a podium above all the other fighters. But I do think that the possibility of Islam Makhachev surpassing Jon Jones is very slim to none. But Islam's camp is amazing. He's got an amazing corner. He's got incredible IQ. His striking's top tier. His ground game is world class. And Islam Makhachev is one of the scariest fighters currently in that lightweight division. In my pound for pound best fighter in the organization right now. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fights is MMA, and please let me know what you think about this take of possibly Islam Makhachev having a chance to surpass Jon Jones as the greatest UFC fighter of all time. Now, like I said, I think that this is a very slim to none take, but if anyone could do it, it would be Islam Makhachev, being trained in the Khabib Nurmagomedov corner and having a bunch of different other training partners inside the UFC, working with Belal Muhammad. And apparently from Belal Muhammad, Islam Makhachev usually gets the best of him. And he says that if he fought Islam right now, Islam would beat him, which is something crazy to say considering that Islam's a lightweight and Belal's a middleweight. But just saying, I think Islam's skills translate through weight classes, which is the one thing that you look at for a pound-for-pound fighter. Now, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fights is MMA. And please go down there and hit the like button and the subscribe button to help me reach 1,000 subscribers. That would be absolutely amazing if you could do that. Also, while you're down there, turn on the post notifications just so you guys are always notified when I release UFC content and news. But thank you guys so much for watching this episode, and I will catch you guys very soon with more UFC content and news.